Hello and welcome to Norwood News. Today is Friday, January 10th, and I'm your host, Krista McDonald. Right before the holidays, on December 20th, the Norwood Police Department received a call that there was an armed robbery at Norwood Bank. Officers responded immediately, and after a very short search, the suspect was apprehended. For more on this, we go to Chief Brooks.
So we got a call that a bank had been robbed. It was Norwood Bank on Central Street. Call came in at about 3:40 in the afternoon. Our officers did a really good job getting there quickly and getting the story and getting a description of the subject. The subject had walked in with a note threatening that he had a knife and demanding money. He also had some conversation with the teller. He was in and out of the bank in a fairly short time. So we had a detective who responded to the scene, as well as Officer Brett Baker. We use an app on our phones called Bolo Mobile, and essentially what it does is it allows us to take a picture with our cell phone, and then once we have it, we can blast it out. It sends a push notification only to police phones and only to the phones carried by our officers. So Officer Baker and Lieutenant Flanagan were at the bank. Officer Baker took the picture with his phone, pushed it out to all Norwood Police Department phones, and then made an announcement by radio that we had the photo on our Bolo Mobile app. And we all literally just stopped, swiped the app, and looked at the photo, which does really two things. First of all, that obviously lets us know what the bank robber looks like. The other thing is it prevents us from stopping people who are uninvolved. Up until the time we got that photo, we were stopping people in the center of town and checking them out to see if they're involved in the bank robbery, because we had a very general description, essentially a white male needing a shave, hip-length jacket. So at any given time, there's probably 10 or 12 people walking around that look just like that fit that description, and we were stopping them and questioning them. Once we had the photo on our phone, we knew who to stop, and we also knew who not to stop. Within moments of that photo being posted, Officer Austin Glazer, who was on patrol, spotted the subject. Two of the officers from looking at the phone knew who he was anyway. We had put that name on the air. Officer Glazer saw him walking in one of the back entrances to Norwood Hospital and called for help. He and Officer Baker confronted the subject in the hallway. There was a short foot chase. They took him into custody. Right near where they took him into custody, they recovered all of the money stolen in the bank robbery. We then did a show-up identification, which essentially means we bring an eyewitness to the scene to confirm the identity. So the subject was arrested. He's still in custody. He's charged with armed robbery. It was a really successful case.
Also on the 20th, the police department received some great news when Chief Brooks was named Massachusetts Chiefs of Police Association's Chief of the Year. No surprise. Chief Brooks has been a police officer for 43 years and has served as the Chief of Police in Norwood since 2012. Outside of the NPD, Chief Brooks was the Massachusetts Chiefs of Police Association President in 2016, is currently on the Board of Directors for the International Association of Chiefs of Police, or the IACP, graduated from the FBI National Academy and served as president of the New England chapter of the FBI National Academy Associates, and many, many more accomplishments. I am sure everyone in town would agree that we are very lucky to have you, Chief Brooks, and congrats on this honor that is very well deserved. Stay tuned after this break with some more town news.
The Norwood Landfill is a composting and recycling facility that is open for the use of Norwood residents only. The facility is open every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. all year long. Composting of leaves, brush, and grass clippings are allowed, loose or in biodegradable leaf paper bags. Excess single-stream recycling items are also allowed to be disposed in the designated dumpsters. The Norwood Winter Street Compost and Recycling Facility is located at 370 Winter Street. For more information, contact the Norwood Department of Public Works or visit www.norwoodma.gov.
Welcome back. On Wednesday morning, members of the Middle School Building Committee traveled to Wilson Middle School in Natick to tour their school. The purpose of the visit was to gather information and ideas for the potential new middle school in Norwood. Committee Chairman Alan Slater describes the visit.
We're at the Wilson Middle School in the town of Natick. We're actually the Middle School Building Committee, taking a look at an example of a more modern middle school than what we have in Norwood. quite a few good things about it. This is a 5 to 8 school. They showed us how they separate the different grade levels, showed us many of the other classrooms, the other common spaces, and it's something that I think we're going to find very useful down the road when we get into the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts of designing, hopefully, a new middle school for Norwood. So this was a good visit. We hope to do others and use this when we try to decide what we want to do specifically in Norwood.
Thursday night, Alex Berenson, author of Tell Your Children the Truth About Marijuana, Mental Health, and Violence, gave a presentation inside the high school auditorium on the risks marijuana can pose to mental health. Berenson caught up with NCM after the presentation to discuss the inspiration behind his book and presentation.
My wife, who's an MD and a psychiatrist, was talking to me about cases she'd seen, and I didn't really believe her. And then I used to be a reporter for the New York Times, so I started looking at the science that she pointed me to, and was struck by how strong it was. That cannabis is not a safe substitute for alcohol, that you really shouldn't use it in your teens. If you're going to use it, really delay your use at least into your early 20s, hopefully later than that, when your brain is sort of fully developed. That can have negative psychiatric effects. It's not medicine for most people, and that really it's a recreational intoxicant, and if you're going to use it that way, but really please try to delay your use.
Stay tuned after this break to find out what is happening in your local government.
Do you want to stay up to date with Norwood Community Media? Then subscribe to our weekly NCM newsletter. Every Friday, our promotions department publishes an online newsletter that highlights the work of NCM and the latest happenings. It includes the full episode of Norwood News, recent clips from NCM programs, behind-the-scenes photos, and so much more. NCM works hard to deliver a steady stream of Norwood content, and this newsletter is another way to stay connected to Norwood. To receive the newsletter, just visit www.norwoodcommunitymedia.org. Scroll to the bottom of the page, click the Sign Up for Our Newsletter button, and enter some basic information. You'll then be added to our newsletter mailing list. It's all here on Norwood Community Media, your home for all things Norwood.
Welcome back to Norwood News. Tuesday night, the Board of Selectmen resumed their weekly meetings after taking 2 weeks off due to the holidays. The meeting began with a 30-minute executive session. Following the executive session, Mark Ryan came before the board to discuss a recent traffic study. After some discussion, the board came to the conclusion that they needed more numbers to make an informed decision, and they would continue the study and vote again at a later date. The board will meet again next Tuesday. Also on Tuesday, the Zoning Board of Appeals met and had a busy night. Supreme Gas and Convenience, located at 145 Broadway Street, submitted an application to replace their current sign with LED pricing signs.
We don't want to cut you off. You can go ahead and tell us what you're going to do.
So specifically, we're talking about the ID signs and adding the LED pricers to the ID signs themselves.
Now, I understand the prices are, I was by there the other day and spoke with the manager of your shop who indicated, again, we looked at the sign, and the prices are already on the sign, obviously.
Correct.
And he indicated that they simply would be replaced by the LED signs.
Correct.
I think he indicated that they're not flashing signs or anything of that nature, they're just steady signs.
That's correct.
And what would the refacing of the sign consist of?
So basically, all we do is we take down what's the existing face that's there. It's a plastic face.
Yep.
We'd replace that with a new face with the LED digits that will be there. So right now you have a plastic font, and they go out there with suction cups, and they're up there.
They have to get it
taking
up and
them out.
down, and now they can do it from
Correct.
inside.
Now they do it right from the
They
register.
can do it automatically
Pretty
from
much
inside.
the norm
Yep.
now, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes.
The board unanimously passed their request. Later in the meeting, David Hearn presented on behalf of Ravenwood Construction for their proposal to convert 429 Howard Street into a multifamily. The board later voted to approve the request. The Zoning Board of Appeals' next meeting will be held on January 21st. Wednesday night's school committee meeting was the first meeting of the new year and took place in the Balch School Library. Balch Principal Diane Ferreira started the meeting and presented to the committee on the school's progress through 2019. Much of the discussion last night and for future meetings will concern the budget. At Wednesday's meeting, the school committee approved wage raises for both substitute teaching positions and transportation services. The committee spoke with the Transportation Services Director and suggested continuing discussion in regard to a compensation package for future meetings.
Right. I was actually going to propose in terms of the not waiting, what would we think about approving the 2.5% retroactive now, and that would at least give them a little bit of a bonus right now, because it would be an increase that goes back a few months, and then like say we want to continue this conversation, but I think it is going to take some time for the business office to pull all the information we want together.
Right.
And I know we did have an increase of 2.5% in the budget, so I don't think that would have a problem, give us problems with like next year.
The school committee's next meeting will be January 27th. The CPC kicked off 2020 on Wednesday night. The committee started off by reviewing their 2019-2020 CPA project applications and any future projects. Some of the projects they are working on consist of repairing the basketball court and adding more handicap signs at Murphy Field, assessing the recreation department and their outdoor needs for their recreation programs. If funding allows, the CPC would like to look into these needs and how they can help improve the outdoor space. At the Morse House, there are accessibility issues that have been brought to the board's attention.
I would be concerned about the age of the building, especially because of the back half of the building. That addition sits flush to the ground, and I'd be concerned about that sill being, exposed to moisture and the strength of that sill the back structure is resting on. The front part is sitting on a fieldstone foundation, but the back side, the side that what we call the uphill side, is right to the ground, and then on the other side it slopes down, so it's not so. There is you can see the foundation. You can't see the foundation, and plus there's cement or asphalt right up against that back half of the building. So I support doing the rehab on this, but we can't sell this at town meeting just as here's the cost of windows and things like that. I'd be comfortable with this saying, okay, the current structure was evaluated, and they said that the structure, the bones of the building are fine. It just needs accessibility. There's accessibility issues, the repair of the fireplace, or the hearth, and if they're going to use the second floor, how we accessibility to the second floor, if that's going to be the case, lift or elevator. So things like that.
The board agreed to move ahead and look into the costs of renovations and improvements to the Morse House before bringing the proposal to town meeting. The CPC's next meeting will be held on January 22nd. For complete government coverage, tune into the NCM Government channel or watch it on demand at norwoodcommunitymedia.org. Stay tuned after this break to find out what is happening in your schools.
Stop by the Norwood Morrill Memorial Library and check out magazines, newspapers, DVDs, and of course, books. The library also offers a variety of services, including passport renewal, a notary, and tutoring, with multiple different meeting rooms which can be booked for your convenience. Take advantage of online digital resources and get assistance with all of your research needs. Kids can enjoy the children's room stocked with books and toys. There are also a variety of programs for children and adults. And if you can't make it into the library can come to you with home delivery. The library is open Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and on Fridays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. To learn more, go to www.norwoodlibrary.org.
Welcome back. Now we're going to toss it over to our Norwood Schools reporter to recap everything that has happened this week in the Norwood Public School District.
Hi guys, I'm Stephen Allinger. Let's take a look at some activities happening in our Norwood schools this week. 2018 NHS graduate and United States Air Force Airman Bill Tomasello and Sergeant McCourt visited Dr. and Mr. Crowley's classes to talk about life in the Air Force. Airman Tomasello will begin the avionics training program in the next few months. The avionics program will train him to work on the cockpit controls for the F-18 fighter jet. Airman Tomasello talked about his USAF experience and how much he is learning, and he wanted to say hello to all his former teachers and friends at NHS. Congratulations to the Norwood High Students of the Month as well, Aaron Wagner and Brian McKinnon. At the Coakley Middle School, all 8th grade Spanish students watched Canela, a movie about a 10-year-old girl cooking with her family. As a way to review the plot and characters from the movie, students from Mr. Wright and Mrs. Panico's class played a game of Quizlet Live. In order to play Quizlet Live, students had to type in a code and the computer grouped students randomly. Students then had to work together in groups to complete for the quickest and most accurate answers. Mr. Wright and Mrs. Panico collaborated and co-taught this unit. The Prescott School welcomed Maths Amazing this week, courtesy of the PTO. Students learned about the Fibonacci square and how it appears in our world, including many paintings such as the Mona Lisa. Students were able to think critically about how math exists in the real world around us, and even how to get rich quick by just doing their chores. Extended Day is back in the swing of things this week. Every class has been participating in its own brand of science and art, and the days have been jam-packed with activity. First grade had a great time creating monster bubbles together, and third grade created beautiful birch tree abstract paintings using loose marbles, black, and white paint. At the Oldham School, the second grade has kicked off a new year with a unit on penguins. The students are learning many facts about penguins, including the different types, where they live, and various adaptations they use to survive. The second graders have integrated their study of penguins into various curriculum areas. They are reading Tacky the Penguin books by Helen Lester in their literacy block, and they're looking forward to creating Google slideshows in library. At the Callahan School, students in Mr. Down's 5th grade class are experts on the water cycle, as you can see from his fantastic rap. Every graduate of the Callahan can recite the rap and dance moves years after leaving the Callahan. And after you watch this video, you'll see why.
Sun shines on the water and evaporates into the sky. Condensation forms as clouds. The clouds enter a cold air mass, and the water vapor changes back to a liquid. Rain, snow, sleet, hail falls back to the earth as precipitation. The precipitation is runoff and groundwater, and that's the water cycle.
Mr. Downs class.
Well, that's it for school news. There is always something interesting happening in our classrooms and schools every day, and thank you to all the educators who share their news with us. For more information about the Norwood school system, please check the website, Facebook, and watch NCM. Now, let's go to Brian Dunn for the latest sports news.
Hello everybody and welcome to 2020 and welcome to the first sports update of the year. Well, it's been quite a while since we last saw each other, but the teams did not slow down over the holiday break. In fact, they stepped on that gas pedal even more and cruised to the end of the holiday season with some great matchups and exciting finishes. We have quite a lot to run through, so let's not waste any more time and get right into it. We'll take it to the ice to kick off our recap, where boys and girls hockey both took on the Walpole Rebels in their annual New Year's Eve hockey doubleheader. Matt Brown and Bill Nauman were in the house for the boys game, and it took a while, but the Mustangs broke it open with a third period showing of 5 goals. Some impressive scoring performances overall led the Mustangs to a mud-current 6-2 victory over Walpole. The girls did not fare so well, but you know what they say, good teams respond, and that they did. A bad loss was followed by an excellent hockey display against Medfield, and the girls picked up a much-needed win against the Warriors 6-1. They go on to beat an undefeated Ursuline and Dover Sherborne and remain unbeaten in 2020. Hoops has also been dominant these past few weeks. Boys and girls both took on Walpole, and the theme here is defense, defense, defense. Coach Quinn's Mustangs held the Rebels to just 25 points in a convincing win, and Coach McDonald's boys also closed the door to grab the narrow victory at home. We saw the boys again on NCM just this past Tuesday as they took on Dedham to round out their homestand, and no surprise, defense wins again. Dedham got hot out of the gate, but Norwood gets an offensive run and immediately denies any chance of a comeback, and they win 56-46 to improve to 5-1 on the season. Gymnastics get a late start to the winning season, but nevertheless open up with a victory over Norton. 125.6 to 124.55, a record-breaking season last year translates well into the new season. And for swim and dive, they take on Dover Sherborne over at Babson over the break. They lose a close one to the Raiders, 99-79, but Norwood didn't win the 500-meter freestyle in the effort. Track and field are off and running. After a tough loss to Holliston to start 2020, track and field is back at the Red Key and they get a bounce-back win over Westwood. Both boys and girls pick up victories with 7 first-place finishes for the girls and 3-time medalist Solomon King for the boys. Wrestling also continues their success over their busy holiday break. their most recent results being a 2-1 split between Milton, Arlington, and Weston, and a loss to Norton. They currently stand at 8-5. And that'll do it for the sports recap this week, but I want to call your attention to a phenomenal article written by Kira Springer of ESPN about Kristen McDonald's journey through coaching and her transition from the girls' game to the boys' game. It's a lengthy article, but I think all of you should take the time to read it. It was very well written and a very well done piece. And that'll do it for sports this week. For updates on sports, please check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Kristen, back to you.
Thanks, Brian. The residents weren't the only ones making New Year's resolutions this year. On Twitter, the DPW tweeted out a series of messages to suggest different resolutions to lower the waste in town. Here are some of those suggestions. Start composting food scraps. Norwood residents waste over $205,000 each year by throwing food scraps into the trash. Stop junk mail. Norwood residents are forced to spend over $72,000 each year to get rid of unwanted junk mail. Stop buying bottled water. Our MWRA water costs pennies, is great tasting, and is the highest quality. Donate or recycle any unwanted textile items like clothes, shoes, backpacks, etc. On January 5th, longtime police officer Paul Lear retired after 33 years of service. For much of his career, Officer Lear was assigned to traffic patrol outside of St. Catherine's Parish and school during mass, funerals, and during school dismissal. On Sunday, Officer Lear was given a special blessing by Father Donahoe at the end of the 9 o'clock Mass. He was presented with thank you cards made by the school children and a St. Catherine sweatshirt. Well, that's all for Norwood News. To stay up to date with Norwood Community Media, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend.